Thanks for joining us here at Rose Quartz Mediumship podcast, where we simply adore anything and everything healing and metaphysically based. Recently, I went through something that was fairly intense in my personal life, and I had a pretty significant freeze response as a result. And I had a lot of sympathetic arousal. And if you're in the somatic world with me, then you know that sympathetic arousal is our fight, flight, and freeze responses. And when we're activated into sympathetic arousal, some of the functions of our body don't function as well. And they're not meant to, because we're supposed to be surviving. And our body does not understand, our nervous system does not understand the difference between an emotional dynamic and a lion or a bear trying to eat us. And so when we become activated and feel unsafe, then our nervous system is going to function as if we are in life-threatening danger. And if we are in life-threatening danger, eating, digesting food, and sleeping are not important. Because if we don't survive, none of that matters. And so our nervous system gets activated into what's called our sympathetic nervous system, our sympathetic arousal. And I was very much stuck in sympathetic arousal. And what that looked like for me was that I had multiple days where I couldn't eat and I was barely sleeping. I mean, I was trying to sleep, but I would go to sleep at night, get into bed, have a really hard time falling asleep. And then when I did fall asleep, I would be jolted awake. I would go from kind of peacefully resting to my heart rate would go through the roof. I would jump up and would be awake for hours. And that would happen all night long. And so I was getting very, very minimal amount of sleep. And when I thought about eating, I wanted to throw up. It wasn't even a consideration for me. And so I went about 2.5 days without eating. But I was drinking, and I actually really love fasting. I'm somebody who will regularly do 3-day or 7-day water fasts. So this actually wasn't a huge deal for me. It wasn't anything that was out of the scope of my norm. So I was very much stuck in a freeze response where I wasn't connecting to my emotions and the emotions of the dynamic and situation that I was dealing with. And that's normal and natural. That's my nervous system protecting me. And so because I was stuck in all this sympathetic arousal, in a freeze response, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't functioning that great. And as I started to find more safety inside of my body, inside of my reality, then my nervous system moved out of that freeze response and started to thaw. And then I could feel all my feelings. So all the feelings bubbled up, and I'd gone from just putting one foot in front of the other and feeling very numb about the experience to an absolute flood of emotions. And because I understand how the nervous system works, I was able to say to myself, this is normal, this is okay, this is like a wave of an ocean, it's going to pass, we're just going to ride it down. And so when those waves would come of intense emotions, I would feel them. I would be present with them. I would allow them to be there, and I would be with the truth of everything that I was feeling. And then I would ride the emotional wave down, knowing that it was going to pass. I didn't create these big stories in my mind. I didn't spiral out of control. And actually, what I was grateful for in the moment that I was having these big emotions is that I knew that it was me coming out of this intense freeze response and out of all this sympathetic arousal and moving over into my parasympathetic. In our parasympathetic, that's where we are able to access rest and digest. And so I felt such gratitude because I knew on the other side of coming out of these intense emotions was going to be sleep and the ability to eat. And so as I moved through this process, I felt super grateful that I have an understanding of my own nervous system. And I just want to say that I think everybody should have an understanding of their nervous system because it makes it so much easier when you are in the middle of a big emotional response because you know you're just riding the wave down and that life is about to get easier. And no, it's not easy to go from feeling nothing to feeling this really intense emotion because when we come out of a freeze response, we're coming out kind of at the max of our emotions because the freeze response is our nervous system protecting us from an overwhelming number of sensations and emotions that are too much for us to handle in the moment because we're not resourced enough to handle them. And so as I was able to resource myself, as I was able to ground, as I was able to access safety in my body, in my reality, I was consciously telling myself all the ways that I was safe, all the ways that this was going to be okay. I was very much connecting with the ground that existed inside of my body. So multiple times a day, I was feeling what it felt like to have my bottom in contact with the chair or my feet in contact with the floor and really feeling and being present with the ground that was inside of my body, really resourcing myself and knowing that when I came out of this, I was going to be coming into a wave of intense emotions. I could ride that wave down and it was going to pass. Whereas old versions of me, before I understood how the nervous system really works, I would have spiraled. I would have allowed that intense wave of emotion to make me spiral into a place where I thought I wasn't okay. But because I understood what my nervous system was doing, I was able to just work with my nervous system rather than working against my nervous system. And working with my nervous system meant following that wave, grounding down into safety, knowing that this was just an intense emotion that I was feeling and that it was okay. I was resourced enough to feel it and it was going to pass and I was going to be okay. And that experience was really beautiful for me. And I think that it's really important for us to have a deep understanding of how our nervous system works so that we don't spiral and so that we don't work against our own nervous system, but rather we work with it. And I had a client reach out to me and check on me. She said, I know something's going on with you. I don't know what it is, but I know something is going on with you. And I just wanted to check on you, make sure you're okay. I actually had quite a few clients who recognized that stuff was going on with me and reached out in the most loving and beautiful and supportive way. I'm super blessed to be surrounded by empathetic, compassionate, loving people. And one of my clients was reaching out to check on me and she said, I'm really sorry that you're going through this. And she said, I don't know what this is, but I know that you're hurting and I'm sorry that you're hurting. And I responded to her and said, I'm actually not sorry that I'm hurting. I said, I think as humans, we don't get to pick to not have pain, to not experience pain. Pain is part of the human experience. It's not up for negotiation. We're all going to feel pain. But I do believe that we all get the choice of what kind of pain do we want to pick. And it is a choice, especially when we bring conscious awareness to it. So often, we are stuck in the pain of whatever it is that we are living in that is out of alignment, something that's not working in our life, something that's not in alignment anymore. And that's painful. It's uncomfortable. You're sitting in discomfort, being out of alignment with who you are, with your authenticity, with the way that you want to be moving through the world, with where you want your life to be going. It's uncomfortable. And the pain of changing, of growing, of allowing yourself to step out of relationships or jobs or careers or environments or houses or states or countries or whatever it is that is no longer aligned. That process is also painful. There's discomfort. It's uncomfortable. So you're going to feel pain, just like I'm going to feel pain. And when we learn to recognize that we have a choice, now we don't always like our choices, right? We don't like our choices, but we have them. And we get to pick, what kind of pain do I want to feel? Do I want to feel the pain of staying in a dynamic or a situation that isn't aligned, where I don't feel like I'm picking myself, where I don't feel like I'm picking my authenticity, my uniqueness? I'm not picking to align with the version of me who I want to be. I'm not aligning with the way that I want my life to feel. Or do I want the discomfort and the pain of letting go of the thing, the dynamic, the situation, the person, the relationship, the environment, whatever it is that isn't working, that isn't aligned anymore? And sometimes we feel like we don't have a choice, but we do. We do have a choice about which kind of pain we want to experience. And so often, I need to be in one kind of pain for a period of time, and I need to try and make things change in my current environment or my current relationships or my current job or career or dynamic or whatever. And I try to make it work, and I try to resolve things. I try to step into alignment inside of that dynamic, inside of that situation. And then at some point, that pain, that discomfort of living out of alignment feels greater than the pain that I may experience with letting go of that environment, that person, that relationship, that dynamic, that environment, that client, that whatever. And so I think it's important to recognize we don't always like the choices that we have. And I don't think that we get the ability to not pick pain. I mean, it would be a no-brainer if we did, right? Pain or no pain. I would pick no pain. We just get to pick the kind of pain that we want to experience. And we do have choice. You do have choice, just like I have choice. And no, it's not comfortable when you're in the middle of it and you're experiencing whatever kind of pain it is that you're experiencing. But not choosing is choosing. And choosing is choosing. And so when my client told me that she was sorry that I was hurting, and I responded by explaining to her that I don't think that any of us get the ability to opt out of pain. We just get to pick the kind of pain that we want to experience. And in that moment, I was willing to pick the pain of growth. I was willing to pick the pain of change. I wasn't willing to pick the pain of where I'd been. And I also believe that in choosing myself and that form of pain, of growth, of stepping into the next version of me, I'm also opening up infinite possibilities within that dynamic. Because when I pick me, and when I pick change, and when I pick growth, I'm also giving the people in my reality who I'm co-creating these environments, these situations, these dynamics with, the ability to pick something different also. And maybe we choose to grow apart inside of this dynamic. Maybe it brings us back together. And I think that happens so often in life, that we hold on and we think that surrendering or letting go is difficult, but it's actually holding on to something that is no longer aligned. That is difficult. And when we surrender, and when we pick us, and when we pick the pain of growth, of healing, we are also opening up infinite possibilities of where our life can go and how the dynamic or the situation can work out. We've already proven that the other way has one outcome. And I'm willing to bet that we've tried it a lot and the outcome hasn't changed. Because if it did, we wouldn't be in pain. And if it didn't, then we're just doing the same thing on repeat, expecting a different outcome, which I'm pretty sure is the definition of crazy. So, sometimes it's not easy to pick one particular kind of pain over another. But picking the kind of pain that is in alignment with where I want my life to go is the kind of pain that I'm willing to pick right now. And in that, I trust that I'll be exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that I'll experience exactly what I'm meant to experience. And the people who are connected to me and this dynamic will experience exactly what they are meant to experience. I hope that you are having a beautiful morning, day, evening, or night, wherever it is that this podcast is finding you. I really appreciate you being here with us.